You're listening to the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast, and I'm Lou Temlett. I'm guessing you're having a good day because either you've been on the mats, are considering getting on the mats, or maybe even taking your child to train. I'm so happy you're here listening or watching this episode. Please don't tap out before the end. When you want to feel the fear and do it anyway, enter a jiu-jitsu competition. So this week, I'm going to be talking about entering or supporting teammates at a competition. Now, back in July and August, my child decided that they wanted to enter a competition. And there was lots of talk in the school about entering and practicing and training and all of that. And I thought I would also enter the competition. And if you've listened to previous episodes, you'll know that I didn't get a match. I was refunded because there were no competitors in my bracket or category. So I was in Masters 3, Masters 4 at the time, and in the heavyweight category. So there I was left with my refunded competition entry fee and my child. I took my child to take part in the competition. And we had a number of people from the school there, which I'm incredibly grateful. Mentioning again, Coach Felix was there very much in a supporting role. And it was quite an exciting thing. I'd taken my children to a previous competition just to watch and support teammates and just to get a feel for what the atmosphere was like, what the setup was like, so that we were familiar for future opportunities to compete. So there we are at the competition in September. My child was there ready to get on the mats. They were really excited about competing, which was great. Went in with an expectation of going in to win and having the confidence. But actually, when we got there, there was some nerves, there was a bit of anxiety, and you can kind of feel the tension, especially, it wasn't for myself, but for my child, really feeling that energy and the mix of emotions. But it was very exciting. Seeing their name on the board as you kind of walk in, and then on kind of mat one, I think, because it was one of the very, very early matches of the day. So when you enter competitions, there is a fee. And this obviously is in addition to, any money that you pay towards, your training and any additional kind of competition preparation that you decide to go for. So there is a consideration from that perspective. There are 3 of us, me and my 2 children. So when we want to compete, it's not just 1 entry fee, it's 3 entry fees. And of course, we all at the moment train in gi, and there is an opportunity to enter no gi competitions. And whilst that's not the same amount again, it is another amount usually. Now, my experience is limited in terms of competitions, so I'm sharing what I know, and I'm sure you'll have your own experiences. So there's kind of that cost aspect, and there is the, just the excitement. So there we are on the day, all of us are there supporting. We've got some, very calm and kind of, match ready conversation from Coach Felix. And my child goes onto the mats. Whilst they're nervous, they're excited, ready to win. And the match doesn't necessarily go their way, but they have a follow-up match, because often there are kind of, heats. You'll have one match and then wrap up that match, and then maybe within 5 or 10 minutes have another match. And I know some of you listening will already know this, but I was chatting with my child earlier and asking them what they felt about the whole mix of things. And, they absolutely went in to win. And, some of the advice that I've got from my child is they didn't have an expectation that they would lose. So the kind of come down after a match and not winning that particular match was really hard, from thinking you're going to win to not winning at all. And obviously there's the concept of, if you don't win, you learn. But I think that balance of the possibility that you might not win that match, but they hadn't really taken that on board, which is fantastic. You know, going in with a winning mindset is absolutely where you need to be. And they had a strategy and it didn't quite work out on the day, but their second match was incredible. It lasted much longer. There was a lot more fire and energy, and it really was quite incredible to see the difference from the very first match to the second match. And yes, there was a lot of emotions kind of pouring out afterwards, almost the relief and the exhaustion, because these matches take a lot out of you. And every time I've gone to watch competitions, both me and my children all love watching no-gi matches, because we train in gi and we know, okay, so I need to just correct myself. They're not moves, they're positions. I'm still in my dance mode, so forgive me. One of my teammates kindly shared that we're talking about positions. So mount, side control, guard, all of those things. So I'm just correcting myself because I don't always get things right first time, and that's okay. So just the feeling about being in competitions and watching the no-gi, it feels really exciting. And I think that's, you know, it's the unknown. Watching an experience that you're not so familiar with is just, you know, exhilarating and different and all of those things. So watch out. We may well all be doing no-gi matches in the future. So for me, I didn't have a competitor, and I'd really built myself up for this competition. I'd taken extra competition classes, and my fitness level was going up, and I was ready. I was really ready. So for me, the come down of not having a match. However, I did pack my gi in the car just in case. And of course, you know, it's not likely that there are going to be any competitors on the day. I guess there could be, but I hadn't told anyone I had my gi in my car ready. But that's one of the reasons why I set up this podcast, to start encouraging more women to think about training jiu-jitsu or even any martial art, just to encourage women to have an interest, whether it's their partner or their children, to even, you know, step on the mats themselves and experience what jiu-jitsu can do for them. And I think that the proof really is in your own experience in doing that. So I would love before I'm 50, which is not that many years away, to have my first match. And that's what I'm aiming at. At the moment, I'm feeling like I'm completely plateauing in my knowledge and experience. It doesn't feel like I'm progressing very far. But I was watching some stuff on Instagram, as you do, of all the jiu-jitsu people that I follow, and Malachi Friedman, and he was saying, you know, you're not plateauing, you're just possibly refining the moves that you learn, because obviously the growth from not ever training martial arts to the first few weeks or, you know, 6 months or a year is massive, the kind of growth curve. And then it does feel like you're plateauing. But remember that we're all just refining the moves, perfecting them, getting deeper grips. I will take heart from the experience of all of the moves and techniques that I've learned, and just refining them, and not be so hard on myself about the feeling of plateauing. Because the growth curve will happen again in this sport or other activities, and that's okay. So I will put myself up for another competition. I don't know when. We were at a competition last weekend supporting fellow teammates, Ollie, Hugh and Lewis, and it was really good to watch them and be there supporting, kind of seeing the techniques and the emotion as well. I love the fact that when I took my child, whilst they lost 2 of the matches, they still wanted to compete again. And I think that's the same. You know, when I spoke to Ollie after his match, you know, he was absolutely up for competing again. And I think if you get in competitions early in your jiu-jitsu career, from my experience, it feels like you're more likely to continue competing. The later you leave the competition, entry, maybe it feels like, the less chance that you will put yourself in for competitions. So obviously that's my kind of thoughts on the matter. There are lots of different variations, and people will, say different things, and that's okay. But from my experience and my kind of reality right now, that if I started competing earlier, I would probably still be competing and get that competition bug. And I think maybe it's like getting a tattoo. When you get your first tattoo, you go, oh, well, that's cool. Oh, I can add to more and more and more. And you get that bug for wanting more tattoos. So maybe that's the same with competitions, or any of those things. This is a Jiu-Jitsu podcast with me, Lou Temlett, coming to you from the UK. And today I'm talking about entering Jiu-Jitsu competitions and supporting fellow teammates. Okay, so some advice for competitions, and this is advice from me talking with people that have competed, and my non-competition experience. But I really feel when I've chatted with other women on the mats at my school, it really is about encouraging each other. So when I was chatting with Jareen, one of my fellow female teammates on the mat last night, we both have children and we often have to leave after the GB1 class and deal with the children and all of those things. But we both decided to stay last night, obviously with permission of our children, which you have to kind of do. And bearing in mind that it's half term, so the children, can have a little bit of a later bedtime, not every night. But actually, it was the encouragement between us, kind of saying, do you want to train GB2 or not? Should we do it? Yeah, we'll do it. And that was really nice. And I think that's the same with competition, that if you have a fellow teammate and they go, oh, do you want to do this? It's kind of that camaraderie between the two of you, or even a bigger group of you. Shall you do it? Should we not? And just that encouragement, even the conversations in our WhatsApp group, I think when you see one person, you go, oh, well, maybe it's a good idea to join this competition. Oh, well, these people are competing. Well, I compete. I can, train to compete too. So I think that's really nice to be able to be encouraged by other people around you, because sometimes the motivation, it's difficult sometimes to find it within yourself unless you have an outwardly kind of competitive spirit 24/7. Do you put yourself in for every single competition? And of course, an unlimited budget, which I know some of us don't have. So take heart from your teammates. Ask the question, are you going to compete? Because it's sowing the seed of that mindset. Likewise, if you've got friends that don't already train jiu-jitsu, suggest it to them. When you're suggesting ideas, I think it gives another person an idea to think, well, maybe I should. It's been suggested. So competing, I'm definitely going to go committing here now. Definitely going to put myself down for another competition, maybe before the end of the year, but certainly at the beginning of next year. I know there's some competitions coming up in March, and I will commit to taking more competition classes, because I think my experience, having recently been promoted to train the advanced class, then until you're in kind of advanced mode, the school that I train at, the submissions aren't, week in, week out training. So I need to up my submission game. Arm bars, chokes, they are all there for me to practice, but I'm still going to keep my half guard strong. Anyone that's already rolled with me at my school. Anyway, I just also want to say thank you so much for joining me this far on my episodes. Little did I know, kind of 2 months ago, I'd be hosting a jiu-jitsu podcast, having had experience in the podcast world prior to this. It's really given me a good base. I would like to say a combat base. From a jiu-jitsu perspective, which is one of the strongest bases you can have. Anyway, I diversify. Thank you very much for listening. it really is encouraging. I have to take, obviously, time out of my other elements of life, because I know if you train jiu-jitsu, you are more than likely to have work, family, home, social, other activities that you do. And it all takes time and dedication. And, you know, we only show up when we really want to achieve or take part in something. You know, if you don't want to do something, then you don't. So today I have been talking about entering jiu-jitsu competitions and supporting fellow teammates. And I will continue to support teammates at any upcoming competitions. You know, it's always really good to get that energy and vibe from, you know, competition space. And I've got the lovely Lucy Wheeler, who I am interviewing over the weekend for next week's episode. And she happened to turn up at the competition that we were at last weekend. And it was fantastic to meet her in person. So listen out and watch out for next week's episode with Lucy. I do hope you enjoyed this episode. Please do tell your friends about this show. And I'd really appreciate you to subscribe on whichever podcast platform you're watching or listening on. And why not leave a review? I would love to read what you'd like to hear or see coming up on future episodes. So drop me a line. Remember that patches and T-shirts will be online very soon. I know I keep saying this. Patches are on their way. And I just want to say thank you to one of my teammates. They have ordered their Jiu-Jitsu Lou podcast T-shirt. And as I said last week, being designer, there will be more designs coming up. So if you have any ideas or would like a Jiu-Jitsu Lou T-shirt, podcast T-shirt, drop me a DM. Anyway, thank you for supporting my journey and being here. I look forward to having you listening in again. Take care. Bye.